And this is, this warehouse was built in the 40s. And where we're standing now is actually where the trucks pulled in. And the warehouse was really pretty small. They loaded everything with hand cars. But we use this for 50s. And we used to do hundreds, but we ran out of 100-pound bags last week. We're not going to do any more hundreds. We have a new packer coming in May that's fully automated, 25 and 50-pound packer. And for another 200,000 to do 100-pound bags, but
okay, the 50 pounds, who do you sell those to?
we sell, well, for example, this right here is going to Tasty Blend in Fraser's Bottom, West Virginia. And they're going to make mixes, batters to roll fish in, stuff like that. That could go to a prison. We sell to the state of Arkansas. We furnish all the flour for all the prisons in Arkansas and Colorado. This one could go to a bakery.
How much do they usually buy?
17 pallets is my road. This whole road is
Okay.
The state of Arkansas buys, at least a load of wheat, either whole wheat or, let's come right in here.
Now, is there a machine that wraps this plastic around them?
They're not about to finish, are they, Gary? Are you caught up with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so we better rush in there if that's what we want.
There's 15 here.
Yeah, let's go in, because they're going to be splitting the, and it's actually going to Arkansas prison. Yeah, what they're doing is they don't go so much, and they go back, and they go, and then that'll give them another.
down and the split here comes around into the hopper. And I'm sure they're using air pressure to pull it down, plug it into the bag on the other side, and then it prints them, tags them, rolls them, and now they're parking on the way out. These machines are a lot of fun. I'd like to have one in my living room, but I don't know what I'd do with it. Quite a machine the way it stacks it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this machine runs on a lot of photoelectric lines. They can plow on the floor like so stupid. We invited people to come up here. We didn't know that much about it. And they're taking this thing, just eating bags up there. Organic flour. Okay, we got here at the right time. This line over here, and now it's waiting the whole week.
Self-rising, and then use the containers to use the whole week.
We have those bins are kind of, they're deadly.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, everything's a dedicated bin. Now in this warehouse here, you're going to see a lot of different things. Here's self-rising, here's unbleached, here's bread flour. The difference between bread flour and Hudson cream flour is we take the Hudson cream flour and we add some refined gluten. Because to make the right type of bread, you need a balance of protein, gluten, and starch. And by adding the refined gluten, it makes that three-way balance a little better and easier.
Well, which is the best seller?
The best seller in the United States is the self-rising 5s.
You know, I have never
We-
bought self-rising.
We sell more self-rising 25-pound bags of flour to West Virginia than we do flour total in Kansas. But now, our Missouri hillbillies kind of remember what, they used to have biscuits 3 meals a day, even, and they still do in Arkansas and Missouri. West Virginia is our market area. That's what's made this company what it is. And when they say they make bread, if women call me and they say they're making bread,
Biscuits.
it's biscuits. That is bread to them.
It's not just the hillbillies from Missouri either, because Tennessee, Bill's family,
Well-
they make biscuits all
Okay, our market area is West Virginia from back in the 30s, and it's Tennessee, Kentucky, and parts of Ohio. We're actually even in upstate New York. No, because wheat is a natural gluten.
And it's got gluten in it as part of the plant process.
Yeah, you'll never have gluten-free wheat. The gluten-free flour would be like rice flour or potato. Organic for the parent company at Kroger. And that's the company that owns King Super, and Kroger, and Dillon's, and Fred Meyer. We do all of that organic.
for all the programs.
Yeah, I mean and some loads go way back east, some go to California of that organic, but my opinion of the organic is probably not the best as a salesman trying to sell the organic. It's a lot higher price.
How can you be 100% certain it's organic?
Well, we buy certified organic wheat that is certified. That grower has to have an annual audit. We have to have an annual audit. I have to keep track of that load as it comes in, what bin it goes in. We have designated bins for it. Then the mill has to be flushed. We flush with organic flour. And of course, that we don't waste it, it just becomes half of its value. And then we put it in a bin over here that it has to be flushed. It goes through the packer that has to be flushed. You take $18 a bushel wheat and you have about maybe 3 to 4% of it that gets dropped down to like $6 value wheat.
What are your protein ranges on your?
Our protein, we try to build 12 to 12.5 protein wheat. The Hudson cream is going to be, it's going to crowd 11% protein. Our all-purpose, like our Diamond H or Defender, it's going to be about 11.7 to 11.8. Some of it's going to bounce at 11.85, but
Good solid wheat.
yeah. In some years we struggle to get the protein. Other years you struggle to keep the protein down. But ideally you like 12.25 to 12.5 protein wheat.
Sure. Now, what kind of ash levels are you using?
The Hudson cream flour has a 40 ash, which is low in industry standards. That's why people think it's better than everybody else's flour. It's the ash content. The all-purpose flour, like our Diamond H, will run about 50. And that's all-purpose is going to run from 50 to 54 ash, you know, as an industry. And when people say one flour is, they don't like it as well, it may make good bread, but maybe they don't like it as well because it's got a higher ash.
Higher ash, or in some cases a little more protein, or that gluten variable makes a big difference.
So our Hudson cream flour does not have the clear flour in it. The clear flour is a high gluten flour. It's a dirty flour, and that's actually what they make wallpaper paste out of. So we don't have that in our Hudson cream flour, so that's kind of the difference. Yeah, we can come on up here and show you some other things. You see the 25-pound bags of self-rising. We sent one semi-load out Friday that had nothing but 25-pound self-rising flour. We went to MDI in Kentucky. But that's just how much business they make. We got some cornmeal. This is not made by us, it's made for us, and it's actually just made for West Virginia. And we've been doing this for a number of years, and it's a lot better than our expectations ever dreamed it would be. Yeah, we probably got broken bales over in the office. I try not to break any bales out in this part, but yeah, we'll give everybody a bag of flour to take home. We have our mixes there. They're made by a company called Tasty Blend in Fraser's Bottom, West Virginia. He was, the guy that owns that was I think it was the 2006 Food Industry Entrepreneur of the Year, named Roy Ellsworth. And everybody's in the bluegrass, they've seen, this guy's a nutcase. He knows more bluegrass performers and is actually a gospel bluegrass recording artist that owns that company.
Yeah, those are mixes like gravy and...
Gravy, biscuit, and cornbread.
Just like those little...
Yeah.
So those things aren't made on site, those are...
No, those are. We ship him the flour for them, but like here, like this right here has flour in it that holds the self-rising ingredients.
This is really good cornbread mix.
So you ship the flour to them for this?
No, it's actually a mill in Oklahoma that mills corn and wheat.
How do you get the flour in there?
They do all that for
Just put your name on it.
us. Yeah, there's a lady in West Virginia that was hired 15 years ago to formulate just what she wanted. Yeah, yeah, that'll be going to the Goddard warehouse. They buy semi-load a week to the Goddard warehouse. And, there's weeks, you know, if they have it on sale, they'll pick up like 2 semi-loads in a week, or actually even 3. If they put that Kroger all-purpose on sale, they might get 3 semi-loads one week, just for that one warehouse.
How do you keep it from getting buggy?
Well, right up there is a fogging nozzle, and that's an interesting question, because a number of years ago, we had 2 research scientists, and they were actually the top research scientists in the nation for this type of industry. Dr. Frank Arthur and Dr. James Campbell out of USDA Manhattan. They wanted to do some research. Well, Cargill and ConAgra and ADM and Cereal Foods, they wouldn't let them come in because they'd have to have somebody handcuffed to them. And you wouldn't go to a Cargill or an ADM flour mill like this. So we let them come in, and they started doing this research, and they were putting pheromone traps all over the plant, and they were catching these bugs, and they were actually doing DNA sampling of the red flower beetles. And a red flower beetle is just a little old red speck, but they were determining whether it was coming from outside or its ancestors originated here in the mill. And through all of their research, there was a guy who owns a company called Intech that was wanting to, well, he actually donated $50,000 to their research. So they really needed a place to have this fogging system, and they were going to do some more research. And so I did some checking on this Intech system, and a company that does Jiffy mixes, they've got one in their plant. That guy really liked it. So we spent about $12,000 in putting their system in. I can take you over to my office and show you the statistics from these pheromone traps. We virtually eliminated the bugs. Every 2 weeks we fog with this pyrethrin insecticide, which is made from the chrysanthemum flowers. And have you ever wondered why people used to plant chrysanthemums around their garden? Chrysanthemums are poisonous insects. Then we use a methoprene, which is a growth regulator, so that if a bug gets some of this on it, and it's like in a larva or a pupa stage, it never matures to another stage. And so we virtually eliminated our insects then. So 3 years ago, Labor Day weekend, we started another test, and these research scientists, they said, before we put this pyrethrin fog out, it'd be nice to have it really clean. They go, do you think we could clean this packaging department on a Friday night or a Saturday so we could fog it then on Sunday and see if that helps? So I talked to the kids, and they really weren't too enthusiastic about it, but we did it anyway. And we have not had a single bug in a pheromone trap since we started that project. We used to, before we went to that weekly, deep cleaning before we fogged, we'd have as high numbers of be 2 or 3 bugs in pheromone traps out in this area in the packaging department. We haven't had one in over 2.5 years.
Now, did they decide those bugs were related to the ones that were here, or were they incoming?
About 70% of them come in. Most of them were coming in from outside. So we do a weekly perimeter spray. That helps too. I mean, There's an entire toolbox that you use to control insects, but you cannot keep an insect from getting into a grain product. I mean, this is just going to happen. But
So you'll still have bugs if you let your flower sit.
stuff in the mill, it's too high tech for me. They won't teach me how to operate it.
It's really simple.
I don't want to learn.
Yeah, okay, Al.
This right here, it came out.
Just hit okay whenever you're ready.
Okay, all right. We've got a nice story about us in the Sunflower Journeys on public TV.
Did you ever get your copy?
Yeah, I got a copy of it too. Yeah. But anyway, we'll watch this video.
Can you see?
Yeah.
You can
It kind of explains the history of everything.
Barbara, are you afraid of us?
No, but I've seen it before.
I'd sit back there and take a nap then.
Yeah, I can probably ought to get in the back if I go to sleep, nobody will know.
Well, you have to aim that at it, Randy. She said punch okay, didn't she?
Yeah. Got ready to stand on it.
Yeah, it's broken. Let's take it off the wall to my house.
Yeah, right. So you have to start over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, all that is
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
This was done by Brett Ronan.
Hi, I'm Al Brunson. Welcome to the Stafford County Flour Mill.
Is that loud enough?
Can you see around me, Carla?
Yes, Jean, I'm fine.
That's the side of the cloth where our flour goes through.
In 1882, Gustav Krug traveled with his family from Saxony, Germany, and settled on a small farm north of Hudson, Kansas. His father Carl, who had been in the milling business, often told his son tales of his milling days in Germany. As Gustav grew older, his love for the land was soon overtaken by his dream of building a flour mill. He moved to town, built a home, and in 1904, he and his brother-in-law Otto Sondrager organized the Hudson Milling Company. They built a small frame flour mill and began producing 75 barrels of high-quality flour a day. Yet by 1909, the mill was facing financial difficulties. However, instead of giving up, Gustav formed a stock company with a group of investors, and the Hudson Milling Company was reorganized into the Stafford County Flour Mills Company. Four years later, in 1913, there was a rash of fires in the small community of Hudson. And in October of that year, the original mill burned to the ground.
Fire has always been a problem around flour mills and elevators and stuff like that. Your dust is explosive. If you happen to get a hot bearing or something like that someplace, it will cause a fire. And I don't know what caused their fire. I never heard that one for sure.
Everyone thought that was the end of Hudson's milling industry. But Gustav didn't give up. His determination led him to solicit $50,000 in funds to erect a new mill and the first 4 concrete storage tanks. With dreams of a new future, he reorganized the stock company under the name Stafford County Flour Mills, and a new mill was built along railroad tracks in Hudson. Krug was 64 at the time, yet before he died 7 years later, he had paid back every cent to his investors. The new mill was put into operation in August of 1914, and it was one of the most modern flour mills in Kansas, with a daily capacity of 300 barrels and a storage capacity of 50,000 bushels. The mill was originally powered by steam, and every day the mill's steam whistle blew at 7 in the morning, again at noon, at 1 o'clock, and once more at 6. The community of Hudson clocked its day by the mill's whistle. Soon after the new plant started its operation, the Hudson Cream brand name was adopted to describe the unique richness of the mill's flour, and they began using the distinctive sack design that is still in use today.
One thing people always want to know is why the cow in the bag? Well, basically, at the time Mr. Krug started the mill, everyone has cows, chickens, and hogs in their farm. They raise a lot of their own food. The Jersey cow gives the richest cream and milk, so Mr. Krug selected the Jersey cow to represent the quality of the flour in the bag. So that's the reason the Jersey cow is on the bag.
Additional tank storage was also added in 1918, 1924, and 1930. In 1927, diesel engines took the place of steam for the power at the mill. By 1930, the original 4-tank mill had become a 16-tank plant with storage for 250,000 bushels. Today, concrete grain storage capacity stands at 1,800,000 bushels.
We got 1 million bushels of concrete storage, and we got 400,000 bushels in that steel bin. Then we have an 800,000 bushel concrete storage, nice big one over there at Maxville. It did belong to the English Grain Company until they sold it to us. So it's all fine storage. We do a lot of grain business.
In the early part of the 20th century, wheat was harvested by back-breaking labor and long hours in the field. The wheat was cut by a mechanical reaper and piled into stacks until a threshing machine was brought into the field. The threshing machine and its crew would travel from field to field to thresh the wheat, which involved separating the wheat kernels from the rest of the plants. The wheat was then hauled to the storage facility by horse and wagon. Farmers could cut about 8 acres of wheat a day. That's a little more than 7 football fields. Today, a modern combine can cut 1,000 bushels per hour, cutting an acre of wheat in as little as 6 minutes. In other words, today's combines can cut through enough wheat to make 73,000 loaves of bread every hour. After the wheat is harvested, it is transported to the grain elevator by large trucks or semis, where it is stored until it is taken to be milled for flour. When the wheat first reaches the flour mill, it must go through a series of cleaning processes. It passes over a magnetic separator to remove any iron or steel particles, a separator that removes stones, sticks, and other materials such as weed seeds and other grains, and an aspirator that removes lighter particles by moving air currents through the wheat. Frictional cleaning removes surface contamination and the outermost layer of the bran coating.
These samples here I have are from all different parts of the cleaning equipment in the mill, the finer stuff. Yeah, a lot of air aspiration takes that off. Here's some more finer cracked grains, smaller kernels. Here's some little rocks. We get that out of there too.
Once the wheat is clean, a certain amount of moisture must be added to toughen the outer bran portion of the wheat berry and soften the middle. This makes it easier to separate the bran and germ and leave the remaining part of the wheat, which will be ground into flour. The moisture is added in tempering bins. The wheat slowly moves from the top of the bin to the bottom until the right amount of moisture has been absorbed. This usually takes about 12 hours, depending on how much moisture needs to be added to the grain. Once the wheat is properly tempered, it moves on to the break rolls, where the actual milling of wheat into flour begins. Break rolls are grooved metal cylinders that revolve in opposite directions. One of the cylinders revolves at a slower speed than the other, and as the wheat passes through the space between them, the outer coating, or bran, is removed from the grain. The space between the two cylinders can be adjusted to remove more or less material. The first break roll is just that. The first time the wheat berries are broken, therefore the space between the two cylinders is fairly wide. After the grain has passed through the first break, it is sent by air to a sifter. These sifters are large rectangular boxes that rotate in horizontal circles at high speed. They are supported from the ceiling by large oak rods that allow the sifter to move freely back and forth without wearing out their support. These oak rods have been in place for decades. The sifter separates the ground grain into several products according to their size.
The sifter has a lot of different them sieves I showed you. There's a lot of those. So there's screen on top. Then finally you get different ones, and finally down to number 14 cloth. When they get down, if you go through that one, it's ready to go in the flour sack. We have a 14 double X cloth on here, and most mills do not use that. One of the large mills was here recently visiting, and they said he did not know of any mill was making short patent flour like we are. So we're still quality minded here, and we do strive for making quality product. So those are inside the sifter. Sifter's going like that, and those things floating around in there, they call them frogs. They're in there to keep that product from clinging to the cloth, and that way it flows through the cloth in good shape to make the flour with.
Some of the grain has already been ground into flour, but most pieces are still too large or still have pieces of the bran attached to it. The large size material is sent back to the next set of break rolls for further bran removal. This is called the second break. The intermediate size material, called middlings, is sent to another device called a purifier. The purifier is really another sifter with a shaking motion and large quantities of air passing through the middlings to lift out the lighter bran particles. The purified middlings move on to the reduction roller mills. The reduction roller mills are much like the break rollers, except they have smooth surfaces on the cylinders. The reduction roller mills are adjusted to reduce the granular middlings into white flour. After each reduction roller mill, the ground material is once again passed through the sifter. This process is repeated over and over until all the flour is separated from the wheat kernels. The wheat, in various stages of becoming flour, is moved around the mill by air. Large pipes distribute air to every part of the mill. Moving the product from break roll to sifter to purifier, back to the second break roll, back to the sifter, to the purifier, to reduction roller, back to sifter, and so on, till all the flour is extracted from the grain. The grain may pass through different break rolls, reduction rolls, and pass to the purifiers and sifters up to 7 different times during the milling process. Once the flour is extracted from the grain, vitamins are added. The vitamins are added in a blender. As the flour passes through the blender, it is mixed with the vitamins, which are added as a fine dust over the top. The flour may be bleached. Bleaching turns the flour a bright white, or it may be left unbleached. In the case of self-rising flour, phosphate, salt, and soda are added from special bins. At the packing floor, the flour is put into 5, 10, or 25-pound sacks and shrink-wrapped into bundles.